What if Naruto was trained and loved by Mai Terumi during the Chunin exams? Part 1. A cloaked man with an orange mask stood tall overlooking the war-torn battlefield before him. Scattered before him were the bodies of shinobi from all of the elemental nations. The grounds were scorched in every direction, some black flames still burning without fuel. He could see every single shinobi he had defeated in the battle before him. The wreckage, he was strong and fast. However, he was no match for the masked man who would simply allow the bulky man to phase right through him. The action would only prompt him to turn around and send a well-placed fireball right at the man while his back was turned. He had no time to react. He was obviously enraged by the fact that he had killed his brother earlier in the war, but the 8 tails had to be harvested. It was all for his master plan after all. Hatake Kakashi laid in a puddle off to the side. The silver-haired lazy Junin put up quite a fight, much to the masked man's surprise. Of course, the difference in skill between the two of them was drastic. He was able to put up quite a fight by normal standards. However, in the cloaked man's eyes, it was almost as if an insignificant little child came running at him with a chirping hand, hoping for the best. He did surprise him though with his Sharingan capabilities. Unluckily for him, it was nothing that the man hadn't foreseen. Madara took a deep breath of air, and removed his mask for the first time in years. His timeless body had since lost any need for food or water. It was as if he was a god trapped in a human's body. He looked down with a scowl at the fallen blue-haired woman whom leaned up against the tree. Conan, her eyes were lifeless, but regardless of her situation, even in death she held a peaceful smile that almost seemed out of place on her mysterious features. She had since forsaken her Akatsuki cloak, and betrayed him. Of course, he could rationalize that she was never his to begin with. Since Nagato's death, she had returned to AIM and locked the city down and went into hiding. She became the angel that took over AIM after the fall of their god. She had only come out after being asked by that insolent blonde. Madara grit his teeth as he thought about the blonde shinobi. There was no way that child would ever be able to compete with him. The boy had the audacity to call himself the man's equal. He had been ruining his plans ever since he came into this world. Starting first off with Uchiha Sasuke. People all thought their friendship was deep. Deeper than anything that the world had ever seen. Well, they thought wrong. The two fought each other to the death, and the blonde, after all of his growth as a shinobi, had come out on top again. He should have suspected as much though, ever since what happened at the Valley of the End. He wanted to blame someone, and if anyone that used to oppose him were alive, I'm sure they would have had fun guessing. Perhaps it was the pink-haired girl, whom always beat the boy down. Her actions perhaps made the blonde stronger. Perhaps they taught him to never give up. That at the end of the road, through all of that adversity, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. No, it wasn't her. Perhaps it was the former fifth Hokage. The closest thing the boy had to a mother in real life. The big sister-like figure that was always there for him and would look out for him. The one he could go to in order to talk about anything. No, it wasn't her either. Perhaps it was the filthy white-haired pervert. The greatest of the legendary trio. The man whose sealing skills were only rivaled by one man. One man that was forever locked away, never to return to this world. The man that had taken the blonde on a trip and taught him how to live. Not for others, but for himself. He taught him about the Kyuubi's chakra. One of the key stepping stone towards becoming his equal, attempting to become his equal. Yet, it wasn't him. Was it the young blue-haired Hyuga? The first girl to ever admit her love for the boy. The one that would willing jump in front of danger for the boy. The one whom always believed in him, and was always there for him. No, all of those people were the obvious choices, but they were all deceived. No, the one person was one that had already defied him before even meeting the boy. Had he known her reach had extended so far earlier, he would have dealt with her. For once in a long time, his eyes that could see everything, he was deceived. Mai Terumi, the fifth Mizukage. Who would have thought something like that would have ever happened? She turned the boy into something that the world had never seen in decades. Ever since that fateful day they had crossed paths, had he known that the moment would turn the boy into his rival in ninjutsu. That she would turn into the sole factor in the boy's life that would forever make him a threat. That her presence alone could change everything. What she had done was so simple, and yet so drastic. She gave the boy hope. This was why Madara could only look down and scowl at her fallen form. That, and the young man who had since come and crouched over her fallen form. It never had to come to this. The boy just had to surrender peacefully, and then a new era would have started. Uzumaki Naruto, the last Jinchuriki. Madara gave a pause as he got the boy's attention, seeing as how he looked to face the man, come to die. He asked as a tired voice. Naruto stood and looked up towards the man who had caused chaos and invoked terror across the shinobi nations. He reached into his shinobi pouch and pulled out a single scroll. This action caused Madara to narrow his eyes, and quickly launched several fireballs at the boy without the use of seals. His scowl could only deepen though as the boy's unique technique came to life, the one that made him revered as his equal. The ability to pull water out of this air. It blocked the fireballs with ease as they fizzled out against an equally large mass of water. Naruto tossed the scroll in mid-air as Madara spoke, "Boy, only I can live forever." Naruto appeared completely unfazed by the statement, and Madara asked the one question that had been forever plaguing his mind. "Why do you live?" he said in a condescending tone. Naruto looked up, and for the first time since he arrived on the scene, thinking about all of the families and friends he had in the world, he knew his answer, and it was obvious. "Because I have something worth living for." The scroll unsealed. Naruto kicked a pebble repeatedly as he walked down the street. He had just asked his sensei, Kakashi, if he could train him for the upcoming Chunin exam. However, the man had declined. Much to Naruto's displeasure, he had told him that Sasuke was going to need all the help he could get against Gaara, and that he had already promised he would train Sasuke. This wouldn't have bothered Naruto much considering it was a promise. Naruto knew more than anyone how important it was to keep a promise. The problem was, he knew his sensei was lying. He at least tried to line up another sensei to take his place, which was thoughtful of him. That was until Naruto met the sensei that was supposed to train him. He had defeated the poor bastard with a jutsu designed for perverts. The man had literally passed out. Naruto couldn't rely on anyone that would pass out for hours at a time over a single jutsu that was designed for perverts. So here was his problem. Sure, Sasuke was going to have trouble with his fight against Gaara without a doubt. Yet, Naruto was going to have trouble with his fight too. It wasn't like the Rookie of the Year Hyuga was going to be any easier. At least Sasuke had a few useful techniques under his belt that could possibly stand a chance against Gaara. There was no way for Naruto to even hope to beat Neji unless he was able to pull some win out of his. So when he arrived at his favorite training ground, and saw a woman in ragged dark blue clothing there walking on water, he was instantly mesmerized, and had already begun making his way over there. Naruto's situation in the village being the Kyuubi's vessel certainly did not make him the greatest candidate for the best dressed title. He owned very little, and the few things he did own were rather beat up. For example, his complete wardrobe consisted of 2 second-hand orange jumpsuits that have been stitched and patched up several times. Then naturally a couple pairs of underwear and a couple black shirts. That and some overalls that no longer fit him, but kept them for sentimental value. To be blunt, he looked homeless. Naruto sat down on a rock nearby the lake. The woman had since begun going through what appeared to be several different fluidly moving taijutsu stances. He could have swore he saw the water boil and bubble beneath her feet, but he didn't know for certain. He didn't even know if the woman had known of his arrival and the fact that he was watching her. The woman was young and slender. She couldn't be a day older than 25. She had ankle-length auburn hair with several bangs, one that continually covered her eye at all times. She had on dark blue nail polish and lipstick, which surprised Naruto slightly. It was an exotic look in his opinion, at least the color choices. Perhaps it was because of the area where his apartment was located. He was just used to all women wearing ruby red lipstick, high heels, and fishnet clothing with miniskirts. The proctor of the second part of the Chunin exam only solidified that opinion, since the only other female kunoichi he had seen besides her was one that instead of fishnet, used bandages to cover her body, frankly not much better. She continued twisting and turning through various movements. It looked like a dance the way she was performing. Then all at once, she stopped and turned into water falling into the lake. The action thoroughly confused Naruto until he felt a hand on his shoulder, and someone lift themselves quickly over the stone to plop down and sit next Naruto. I usually charge for lessons, you know, she said with a smile as she turned her head to look at Naruto. Naruto nearly flinched when she sat down next to him, but her smile calmed him down considerably. He stayed silent for a moment as he looked out over the lake to where she was formerly. So how were you doing all of that? Like walking on water? Naruto asked, genuinely curious as he turned back to face the woman. The woman looked amused and replied, I'm Mei Terumi, nice to meet you too. She said in an overly cheerful voice that held hints of sarcasm which indeed got Naruto to flinch and look slightly ashamed. Sorry, he said in embarrassment, I'm Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto, he said slowly, hoping she wasn't like most whom after learning of his name often make excuses to leave. However, to his surprise, the woman just chuckled in amusement. Uzumaki Naruto, eh? She closed her eyes and leaned back with both hands on the rock as she gently began swinging her feet back and forth. She looked quite relaxed. I've heard quite a bit about you around town. She followed her question by opening her right eye to peer at Naruto to gauge his reaction. Naruto scowled a bit at the mention of his reputation, but said nothing. So the woman continued. They say that you are a demon and can't be trusted. She finished her statement slowly, making sure to say every word. Naruto's expression turned sour once she said that. That you are a real handful. She sent him a questioning glance. The boy looked as if he was ready to just get up and leave. Yet her steady hand that she put on the boy's shoulder kept him in place. Good thing for you. I don't always believe what I hear, she said with a grin as she leaned forward to get in Naruto's view. Naruto on the other hand was going through a range of emotions with his encounter with this Mei Terumi. He wasn't a complete idiot, unlike what most people thought about him. He knew this woman must have been someone from another village that was just visiting for the Chunin exams. However, it was surprising to say the least. He had met plenty of people from other village, and frankly they were the only people that would ever give him the time of day in the village. However, if they had already heard about his reputation from the villagers, and they usually do, most of them find it wise just to avoid him, and that was rather easy to do considering all they have to say is, avoid the blonde-haired blue-eyed boy, and they would be fine since he was the only one whom existed in the village. I also saw the poster. You are going to be in the upcoming Chunin exam, right? She said, giving the boy a questioning glance. Naruto got his emotions back under control, but still didn't trust his voice to broadcast what he was feeling, so he resigned to merely nodding at the woman's question. She now sat up, and in the process got in quite close proximity with the boy, as she rested her hand on his leg while picking up a few pebbles of the ground and lobbing them into the lake for amusement. So then why aren't you training with your sensei? I hear that the Hyuga are rather dangerous opponents. If I was in your shoes I would be training constantly with my sensei. Naruto clenched his fists at the thought of his sensei. Sasuke was probably out there with Kakashi now, learning all sorts of cool jutsus that would just leave him in the dust when he got back. Then he would get praised even more than he does when he beats Gaara. Sakura will be fawning over him even more than she usually does, and he would never get the time of day. He would just be told to work on chakra control or the basics. Naruto ran a hand through his hair and tried to remain calm. Maya-sensei, he said the word sensei with a bitter taste with a pause before continuing, Kakashi is going to go train my teammate Sasuke for the month. If Naruto was looking at the woman, he would have seen the slightest unnerving glint in her eyes when he said that. He left you here, unsupervised, forsaking you for another teammate. Something tells me this isn't the first time, Naruto-kun, she said slowly, with hints of worry in her voice. Naruto scowled. For some reason the woman who was sitting next to him always knew the correct choice of words to say to get under his skin. He prided himself on having a metaphorical mask that he could keep up at all times. A mask he could hide behind to pretend that things didn't bother him when they actually did. Yet here was this woman speaking to him as if there was no mask at all, or as if she knew exactly what to say to just slip under the mask for a mere moment to get her point across. Naruto stood up and got ready to leave, no longer wanting to continue this conversation any longer. Yet once he made his stand, the woman proposed an offer that he couldn't refuse. Well then, Naruto-kuna, how about I teach you? I am from the Hidden Mist village, but I can see that you have a lot of untapped potential and it would be a pleasure to help you reach your potential over this next month. I believe I could teach you quite a bit of things that you would find useful. Naruto turned to face the woman and gave her a questioning glance. Like, how do I even know you are qualified to teach? The woman turned to Naruto and cocked an eyebrow at him. Well, Naruto, you don't. You just need to trust me. What other options do you have? Naruto said nothing. For some reason he knew the woman's statement was that of a rhetorical question. I am going to have to decline. I have had some bad experiences in the past with teachers deceiving me. The woman shrugged her shoulders and stood up and walked to the water, calling it Naruto. Alright then, Naruto. I wish you the best of luck with whomever you hope to train with in the coming month, she said as she took her first step out onto the water as several clones of her began to rise up out of the water. Naruto carried on looking at the woman for several minutes as he watched her go through several sets of taijutsu. He didn't think much more of it than that until she did only what appeared to be 3 seals and a giant water dragon appeared out of the water circling her clones. The giant beast gave a roar before flying up and crashing back down, merging once again with the water. Naruto pursed his lips and thought over what the woman said to him and sighed before saying, "Damn it," and going off towards the lake where the woman was. Mei Terumi didn't show it, but she was barely containing a smile. She had a plan, and the plan was very simple. She wanted to get the boy loyal to her, and she knew that by this point in life it wouldn't take that much. The boy had been ostracized his entire life in his own home. No one bothered to give the boy a chance, and she could tell just by the way they looked at the boy. They gave him condescending stares left and right as if the boy was useless and not worth one's time of day. Yet that was far from the case, and that was why she was here. The Mist Village was formerly a strong nation that had the world's greatest sword wielders in all of the nations. Their power for a time was unrivaled. However, now with the long ongoing war that was imposed by the last 2 Mizukage, that power diminished. Nearly all of the bloodlines in the country had since been purged. If she were to be honest with herself, the best day in the lives of the people whom lived in the water country as of recent was the death of the 4th Mizukage. He had changed from the young charming boy he once was in a single night, and turned into a ruthless tyrant that followed in the Sendaim's footsteps. In short, the reason why she was here for Naruto was to obtain the one thing the Mist lacked presently. Power. They were lucky with the fact that at least 2 of the 7 shinobi swordsmen had stayed loyal to the Mist throughout the war. That fact of the matter was that with the loss of 5 of their strongest shinobi, and the purge of the bloodlines, the Mist was no more powerful than that of the snow, waterfall, or rain villagers. Something which needed to be corrected quickly. When she had received intelligence that Konoha had a Jinchuriki that had no ties to the village, and seemingly wanted to become the Hokage with no real reason as to why besides the fact that people would acknowledge him, she had a simple plan. The boy grew up without anyone ever giving him the time of day, or never having time for him in general. She would be the first person that would be there for him. Frankly, the plan was simple, manipulative, and effective. Desperate times called for desperate measures. She could only hope that she didn't grow too emotionally attached to the boy, for when she would reveal to him who she is, she could only hope that the boy would side with her and follow her. She was confident that he would, she just didn't want to become overconfident. She heard a speech that had been passed down from generation to generation in the Mist. It was that from some wandering nobody whom was in the art of crafting toy puppets and was said to have a repertoire of 102 puppets at the time. Yet that wasn't what was important about the man. What was important was what he said. He said that people tried to coast through life putting forth as little effort as necessary to get by. When left unchecked, people rationalize away the reasons they should do their best, or even do it all. He felt that what keeps people in check is judgment of other people they care about. He gave the examples of people wanting their parents to be proud of them, their love interests to notice them, the people they admire to befriend tamer, and that was why they try. The wise puppeteer said, these connections to other people are strings that constantly tug at you, pulling you in this or that direction. Without these strings to tug at them, people, like puppets, are inclined to do nothing at all. Truly a wise statement, but nothing groundbreaking, of course, until May continued to listen to the story of this man and analyzed what he had to say. A young boy whom at the time was listening to the puppeteer could only say that it wasn't right to compare people to puppets, which naturally got the puppeteer talking once again. Perhaps, the old man said, giving a pause for dramatic effect, but assuming I am correct for a moment, what happens when someone becomes disconnected from the strings? When everyone a person cares about dies or leaves, or when they never had anyone to begin with. They are left adrift in an empty world, without ties to other people, and thus very little purpose in their lives. That was where Naruto came into all of this. The boy was born an orphan, and the only ties to other people that cared about him were weak ones. The Hokage whom was busy running a village and only saw Naruto a few times a year. Or the owners of a ramen bar that he came to become friends with because of his unhealthy addiction and pitiful budget. What reason did the boy honestly have to try hard to become a ninja? With no one to judge him, or to question him for not trying hard enough. His own sensei had cast the boy off to the side in favor of a different student. Naruto was, and still is, stuck in a state where he alone had to gauge when he would stop trying. He had no one to tell him that there was a solution to his problems. The boy was a shell of a human, a person that had lost hope. Therein was why she was confident. She could change the boy, change him so that he no longer subconsciously doubted himself. So that he no longer thought he was just wasting not just his time by the time of other people. The fact that he would have a mentor, a real teacher, that could tell him that there was a solution to his problems and that it was within his reach. Her actions, she knew, would not just boost the boy's confidence, but it would give him hope. Her and her alone would be his reason to try hard, to not let her down because she and she alone believed in him and gave him the time of day. She knew from first glance that Konoha had failed their Jinchuriki, and the most obvious part about their failure might as well have been a bright neon sign with great big letters pointing to the boy saying, "I'm clingy." The boy was clingy, not by nature, but by a product of his environment. He would cling to her like a lost puppy after a minor gesture of goodwill. The boy was desperate, and desperation only attracts vultures. While May didn't like to compare herself to that of a vulture, she knew there was not much else left to the situation. She was there to poach their Jinchuriki by showing the boy that the grass was in fact greener on the other side. If it came down to her having to put herself in a situation where she would show the boy love for his first time, he would forever be shackled to her at the hip, the boy would never leave her. So while her situation and what her plans for the boy may be cold, and that she may be that of a vulture, she much rather be the vulture that pecks at the boy's side rather than the den of lions that repeatedly rips the boy to shreds day by day. Naruto sighed as he stripped himself of his jacket, shirt, and sandals before wading into the lake and calling out to the woman whom was now sitting cross-legged on it. He swam out to the center of the lake at a relaxed pace, as he saw the woman open her eyes and take notice of him. He swam right up to her, at which point he was swimming right in front of May, whom had since moved from sitting to a crouch on one knee. It became obvious to Naruto that the woman was not going to acknowledge him any more than just staring at him, before he said anything. Especially since he had blown her off not more than 10 minutes ago. "I'm sorry," Naruto said with a frown, doing his best to avoid the woman's gaze. He was terrible with apologies, not because he didn't feel like apologies were necessary, but because he had never been given the opportunity to really give any. "I do need your help. You are all I got," Naruto said, trying his best to sound sincere and not make it seem as if the woman was a last resort. May in turn grinned at the apology. There was no point in trying to give the boy a hard time over it when he said he was sorry, and came back to her. "All right. Then I want your undivided attention this month, Naruto-kun, is that understood? I want you to give me everything you got, and if you are not, I will just stop training you." "Why would I help someone whom isn't trying their hardest?" Naruto nodded slowly at her statement as he continued to bob up and down in the water as he did his best to stay afloat. May gave a charming smile that did its best to calm the boy. She reached down into the water and grabbed the boy from under his armpits and hoisted him out of the water, despite his initial protests. She ignored any ramblings the boy was saying about essentially being hoisted in mid-air over a lake. She calmly said, "All right, first lesson shall be dancing." Naruto stopped complaining about how he was hoisted up and instantly wondered if training with this woman was a bad idea, until she continued her statement. "On top of water." She finished with a glint of amusement in her eyes as she watched Naruto's face go through several various emotions. "Anyways, this is what I want you to do, Naruto." A week had passed since he had met his sensei. In truth, Naruto felt it had been a week since he had met his first real sensei. He wasn't trying to say that his previous teachers were bad. They just weren't good, he thought dryly. Naruto sighed as he fed himself another mouthful of ramen. He was having a quick meal before he would go off to meet his sensei. As the week had gone by, he had begun to believe that his sensei must have been something along the lines of a gift from Kami herself. She fell right into his lap, like an angel, when he needed her most. She then went on to not only train him, but give him her complete and fully undivided attention. She wasn't like Iruka, whom barely gave Naruto a few extra pointers outside of class in his last remaining years at the academy, and that was only after he got over the fact that he had the Kyuubi in him. He didn't think he could ever really look at Iruka the same way after he found out that he used to hate him. She wasn't like Kakashi, whom chose another student over him, and constantly read porn whenever he was giving the team even the slightest bit of training. No, she woke up early, and would set up the training ground that they were going to use. When Naruto got there, she was perfectly ready to work all night if he wanted to, and he often wanted to. Naruto resisted a flinch at the most recent thought. Kakashi had chose his teammate over him, and left him stranded with no one competent. Naruto had a pet peeve that he gained growing up as the Kyuubi's host, unknowingly of course. If you are going to stab a knife in someone's back, at least when called out on it, own up to it. Don't dance around the subject and try to rationalize your reasoning for the betrayal. Regardless, he liked his time with me. The training thus far had gone quite smooth, and if he was honest with himself, she had taught him a lot. Some practical stuff in the life of a shinobi, and other skills that were just useful to have. For example, he thought it was an utter joke when she said that she was going to teach him to dance on water. Yet when she had lifted him out of the water, and had him balance himself on her toes as he tried to grasp the right amount of chakra needed to keep himself afloat, he realized that most teachers likely wouldn't ever think of teaching him this way. They would likely just tell him the general idea and then push him into a hot spring or a pool. There was also the fact that he hadn't ever really had close contact like that with anyone. However, he would never admit the situation made him blush a bit. He could only hope the woman didn't notice. She had taken the time, and used some of her own energy to ensure that he succeeded. As such, no more than a couple mere hours had passed before she had begun teaching him how to dance on top of the water. A skill that she later explained he may very well need to know sometime down the road. Then soon enough, dancing had turned to skating. Learning to skate across the water using chakra, moving at speed that typically wouldn't be possible. She had told him that this was a type of training that was implemented in the mist due to their heavy reliance on large bodies of water and water ninjutsu. By the end of the week, Naruto could glide around the water at speeds far faster than he could ever hope to run. He wanted to compare himself to how quick that fuzzy eyebrows kid was, at least before he took off those absurd weights of his. Naruto didn't think he could ever compare to that. Not without training his body a lot first. Once he had learned that concept, Mae was quick to tell him about Kenjutsu. She had seen his taijutsu stance, and felt that it was beyond repair. It would be completely useless to even attempt to try and fix the basic academy style he was using currently in time for the tournament, and as such she had given him another option. Mizukiri no Yaiba, the legendary water-cutting sword of Takigakure. Of course, Naruto didn't know of the jutsu's origins, he only knew what the jutsu did. How Mae had obtained the jutsu was a story for another time. The sword was likely the greatest of the elemental swords out there for one key fact: it was able to adapt. Swords such as the ones made of wind from Suna were strong, and useful for their impressive cutting powers. Yet in Mae's opinion, they failed in the area the water blade succeeded. The sword of water was strong, like any other blade, and could hold up against any of the other elemental blades just fine. The special quality of the water blade was its ability to change its shape. For example, in the midst of a battle, you could extend the blade's length and catch your opponent off guard. Or you could even use the blade as a water source for jutsus, once it was stable, of course. Naruto had taken some time in the late last week to try and get a grasp on how to make the technique work. However, he just wasn't able to hold the blade together. So in the meantime he had moved on to a simple technique that he knew he would be able to master within moments. Clones. Sure, his track record wasn't that great with clones, and on paper he had a 50-50 chance of being successful with these clones. But he had a feeling that the more chakra a clone required, the better his chances at success were. Soon enough the technique had been mastered and put under his belt. What he wanted to do with that cloning technique was to be able to perform it without the need for seals, or at least alter it so he could use one-handed hand seals like Haku had used on the bridge. Naruto calmly left the ramen bar after giving his thanks to both Ayame and her father. He knew that someday in life he would pay those two back for how kind they were to him. Those two were probably the closest people he had in his life, which in general was pretty pathetic considering he was a customer at their restaurant. It almost made him sound like an alcoholic, just with an addiction to ramen. A rameholic, he mumbled to himself lightly as he walked down the street before shaking his head clear of those thoughts. Naruto walked at a brisk pace to the training ground where Mei was sure to reside, likely having already set up the training ground for whatever she felt like teaching him today. Of course, at this point he no longer cared about her sometimes questionable methods of training. She had taught him more in the past week than his previous senseis had done in months, even years. He could also barely hold in the excitement that was starting to build the closer he got to the training ground. Mei had said that she had wanted him to learn chakra control first, and then she could begin teaching him justice. Yet since he had mastered water walking by the end of last week, he couldn't help but grin as he got onto the training field, with the thought of new jutsus which he could show off, and more importantly impress Sakura-chan. Naruto-kun, Mei said with a smile acknowledging his presence as he got closer to her. Hey Mei-sensei, so what are you going to teach me today? He asked with a grin as he stripped himself of his orange jacket. Since they had been doing a lot of work on the water in recent days, he felt there was little point of him being completely in a jumpsuit for no reason. Mei gave a small smile and motioned Naruto to come towards a large rock she was standing by. Naruto, I'm afraid I found out some things about you which I would like to clarify. Naruto instantly paled the moment she said that, 1,000 thoughts going through his head a second. The most important ones that crossed his mind several times were, does she know about Kyuubi? And, is she going to stop training me? Naruto reluctantly sat down beside her and waited to unveil the news of what she had heard about him. Mei ran a hand through her long auburn hair, as she swung one of her legs over the other making her ragged dark blue clothes rise up. One of the many things he would never understand about the woman. How was it she had more beauty than any other woman he had seen in Konoha, and yet she dressed like that of someone who was homeless? Naruto, Mei began with a weak smile as she turned to look at the boy. I heard yesterday after our training. Some of the civilians of this village decided to come up to me and tell me that you are the host of Kyuubi, the nine-tailed demon fox. Is that true? Alright, so she may have lied a bit, she already knew about that fact. However, it would not hurt to get the boy to trust her even more with her following actions. Naruto didn't say anything and looked at his feet, not really wanting to answer the question. Mei, however, had expected as such, and pulled the boy close, nearly onto her lap and wrapped her arms around him. She quickly felt the boy heat up, and she knew if she could have seen the boy's face from this position, it would have been bright red. I just want you to know, Naruto-kun. She began as she began to gently run her hand through his hair. You are not the Kyuubi, and in fact this only makes you far more special than I originally thought when I met you. You are a Jinchuriki, Naruto. Naruto had literally felt his heart warm the moment she had told him that he was not the Kyuubi, and appeared to be accepting of his situation. Of course this didn't last long as that feeling was quickly replaced with confusion at the term Jinchuriki. Mei, whom picked up on the boy's confusion, clarified what it meant for him, a product of human sacrifice. I know it may not sound great, but you are a hero, Naruto, and you are not alone. Naruto had taken the liberty at that point to nearly do a full 180 spin and blurt out, "But do you mean I'm not alone?" He asked in surprise, and an underlying tone of hope, hoping that there was someone else out there like him. May smiled and ruffled his hair lightly. "Well, there are 9 demons, Naruto. You just happen to have the most powerful inside you. My village, the Hidden Mist, we have 2 Jinchuriki in our ranks. They are the heroes of our village for the sacrifice they made in order for our village to survive. One of them even became the Mizukage due to the general village populace loving him." So she may have stretched the truth a bit on that one, especially since they currently only had 1 Jinchuriki, and then 1 turtle that was in a gated area of the ocean behind the Mist's main island under heavy watch. However, Naruto didn't need to know that. Naruto gave a weak smile once she mentioned that. It was a good feeling knowing that there were others out there like him. However, he couldn't help but be bitter at the fact that they were treated like heroes, whereas he was treated like the dirt beneath people's boots even with the sacrifice he had to endure throughout his life. It wasn't fair. Mei grabbed hold of Naruto's hand with the hand she wasn't using to run through the boy's hair. "Naruto, Kyuubi makes you special. For example, your chakra reserves must be nearly endless, right? That and you'll likely never get tired. You could go without sleeping, I imagine, correct?" Naruto didn't say anything, he merely nodded his head. Ever since he had found out about the fox, he had thought the thing was nothing but a curse. Nothing but a thorn in his side. Yet when he reflected back on the beast, every time he was in need, the fox was there to help him. The fox was there to make up for his lack of training. Mei continued as the boy sat in silence. "Then Naruto, I believe I have the perfect training for you, that can allow you to train 100 hours in a single hour, perhaps even 1,000 hours worth of training in a single hour. Yet first, I must give you a lesson, because over the past week I have come to understand a bits and pieces about how you act as a shinobi." Naruto had perked up at the training, but decided to stay silent and just enjoy the close proximity he had to the woman. He imagined that this was the first time he had ever been held in the arms of anyone since the 4th Hokage had sealed the fox in him. Everyone else seemed perfectly content with ruffling his hair, as if there was a "no touching Naruto" clause on the village. "Naruto, you have told me about your teammate Sasuke, whom you say thinks he is so special because he has the Sharingan. You hate the fact that he is capable of just looking at a jutsu and being able to copy it, right? You think it is unfair." Mei questioned the boy in her arms as she rubbed her thumb on the back of the boy's hand. Naruto scowled at the mention of Sasuke, because it instantly made him think of what Sasuke was doing with Kakashi and the sorts of training the boy must have been getting. Naruto nodded his head in frustration. "I think it is bullshit," he nearly yelled as he kicked a rather large rock several yards across the training ground. Suddenly his feelings on the subject just began pouring out. Because of those eyes of his, everyone in the village feels the need to kiss his. He even stole parts of a taijutsu style from one of our own shinobi, he finished in frustration. "Yet why does that bother you, Naruto?" she said suddenly after he finished his statement. She spun the boy off and out of her grip, and onto the ground in front of her. "I am teaching you because I believe in you, Naruto. I believe that you can become great, probably one of the greatest shinobi that the world has seen in a long time. Yet, in order to become great you need to come to terms that this is a world of killers. That your life is training, and becoming stronger. That you have to wake up every morning and realize that it is do or die. The Sharingan is a tool, an ability that allows the wielder to copy any jutsu he sees. However, don't fault him for using it, get mad that the world is the way it currently is. Your teammate Sasuke uses that ability for whatever reasons he likes, yet it all comes down to whether he should copy the ability and at least have the knowledge of it for later use, and it very well could save his life someday. Or not to copy a jutsu, and then later down the road his life may be at stake, and he could have saved it with that single jutsu he chose not to copy because people felt it was wrong. Mei ran a hand through her hair as she knelt down next to Naruto's form on the ground and placed a firm hand on his chest. "I'm not trying to defend your teammate Naruto. However, I have told you before, I am not training you to be good in these finals. I am not training you to do great in these finals. I am training you to win these finals, and to be the champion of these Chunin exams. In order to do that, I need you to realize that in our life, where it is a constant struggle between life and death, there is no such thing as fair and just. I am going to train you to take every advantage, every opportunity, and then how to fight not just well, but tactically and intelligently. So do you accept that, Naruto? Or shall our training together end here? Naruto closed his eyes and took a deep breath of air. No, I understand what you are saying, he said a bit bitterly. Not that I have much of a choice, he thought bitterly. He hated the fact that she was right, not for the fact that she was right in general but more so since the subject was about Sasuke. Even when the Uchiha wasn't around, he somehow seemed to come up. So what is this training method you have for me? He said as he gently removed the woman's hand from his chest and sat up with a frown on his face. May chuckled to herself and had a small smile on her face as she looked down at the boy and picked little pieces of dirt off his back. The sound of her laugh warmed Naruto's heart. He had to admit he was a bit awkward socially, he didn't really have many friends. The ones he did have, that he could loosely call his friends, were very few and far between. He couldn't even say his team was close, which was rather pathetic. Even when on a team, the members couldn't help but be at each other's throats over something. He couldn't remember the last time he had even heard playful laughter, and it not being someone specifically laughing at him. It was quite relaxing to hear. May stood up and sat back down on the large stone the two of them were formerly sitting on. So now, Naruto, I am going to tell you a secret, alright? Don't tell anyone. When you told me that you had possession of the Shadow Clone Jutsu, I realized how I could train you. Now, while it is one of Konoha's forbidden techniques, one of my shinobi had caught a Konoha shinobi sticking their nose in places they didn't belong in my village. As such, when captured and facing interrogation, the coward had offered to trade jutsus in order to escape interrogation and leave the country. The Kage Bunshin was one of the techniques my shinobi obtained. Naruto stared at her questioningly and tilted his head to the side silently, looking in wonder. This eventually proved to unnerve the woman, and May closed her eyes in frustration and asked, "Why are you staring at me like that?" Naruto paused and opened his mouth to speak before closing it. This happened several times as he tried to form the words, and he eventually said, "Well, I am just curious now about what rank you are in your village. You consistently just said that they were my shinobi, and my village, my shinobi obtained. You were talking as if they were your shinobi." "I am Ju." May had gotten wide eyes momentarily at the boy's analysis of her statement. "And here they say that Uzumaki Naruto is a bit on the slow side." She thought to herself as she realized that she would have to choose her own words more carefully when speaking to the boy from that point on. Although, she could always bully him into not stressing over it. She cut him off saying, "I will tell you my rank when we arrive at the Chunin exam finals, alright, Naruto? No earlier. You will also not pester me to tell you, and you will not go out seeking what rank I am. If I find out you are, our training together will be done with." "Understood," she said with a cold gaze as she looked down on the Jinchuriki. Naruto reluctantly nodded his head. He wanted to know more about May, but not at the cost of him losing his only teacher for this month. "The training I have never would have worked had I not found out today that you were the QB Jinchuriki." Okay, so maybe she lied a bit there. She always intended to have the boy go through with this training, she just didn't know when. The shadow clone technique is unique and different from any other clone out there that I know of. The reason for this is because the shadow clone creates an exact copy of the user, and once dispelled, any information the clone obtains when summoned is transferred back to the user. Now I know you must be thinking, why haven't I noticed it before? And this is what I believe. What you have told me from your fights, you never used the clones to do anything more than full-on frontal attacks. Frankly, Naruto, you are very tactical. They weren't really taking in more information, and I bet you felt that you were just very aware of your surroundings, rather than noticing that the clones were actually constantly sending information to you every time they were dispelled. Their theory is that when you are using the clones for training, any form of training you do, besides physical training, the clones will retain that information and transfer it back to you. This training, however, would never work with anyone besides your Naruto, because you have such high chakra reserves. Other people wouldn't be able to sustain that many clones. Do you know how many clones you can make, Naruto? May asked, slightly anxious as she gave her explanation. The possibilities, all the things this boy could do if he chose to train like this constantly. A single body that has the opportunity to learn a full year of experience in a mere day if done right. He could be the most powerful shinobi on the planet. She could only thank Kami that other villagers didn't know the Kage-Bunshin jutsu, and Konoha had kept their Jinchuriki ignorant. Otherwise all of the Jinchuriki in the world could have thousands of years under their belt in experience before they have even left their teens. Naruto frowned as he thought about it. He had been told that creating shadow clones were dangerous, but in all honesty, he had never felt the slightest chakra drain using them. That part he naturally blamed the fox for, not that it was a bad thing of course. Naruto shrugged after thinking it over. I could probably make 1,000 or something like that just fine. I don't really feel any chakra drain when I make them, so I don't know how many I can make really. May did her best to hold in her surprise when the boy said that he could make 1,000 clones if not more. However, when the boy had told her that, a whole new idea had come to mind that she couldn't help but grin at. Naruto, I have several things I need to help you with, such as your seal which you told me about. I will eventually get to it, but tell me, what do you know about your Nidaime Hokage? Scene break. Naruto sighed as both he and May went off for their break from training. She had been training him since 8:30 in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon. To most ninja, they wouldn't consider that very long. However, what she had Naruto do would have tired any shinobi out. Naruto didn't know what May was getting at when she mentioned the Nidaime Hokage. Yet after she explained how the Nidaime Hokage became one of the greatest shinobi in the world, and thought of as the world's greatest water jutsu user by even shinobi of the mist. His chakra reserves were that of which she could compare to a former shinobi in her ranks. Naturally Naruto wanted to comment when she said, her ranks, but he bit his tongue so he wouldn't lose his teacher. The shinobi had since left her ranks, Hoshikage Kisame, supposedly the greatest of the 7 shinobi swordsmen. He had a chakra supply of that of a tailed beast, and that was whom she compared the Nidaime to. She explained to him that her people had been trying for years to pull the water molecules out of the air, to do water jutsus without any pre-existing resource. However, it was just impossible for the average shinobi. The concept of pulling the water out of the air is extremely simple, yet the reason no one can do it is for the fact that they literally need to saturate the air around them constantly with bits of their chakra. It wouldn't really be that great of a technique if it weren't for the fact that since it is your chakra saturating the air, only you can use the water in the air, and no one else can just come out of a corner and create a water dragon right in your face. So with that thought in mind, she had Naruto start working on the technique with the assistance of clones. Again, it wasn't a hard concept or skill to learn. Many of her shinobi in the mist could do it, just not effectively due to how much chakra was required to do so. As such, Naruto had picked up the technique quite quickly and was able to do it in a single area effectively. Now her task for him was one that she was even forcing him to practice now. Saturating the air with chakra even as they moved around. Something that would certainly be harder to do, but if he could learn how to do it. He had the makings of becoming one of the best water users in the world simply because he could create water jutsus without a pre-existing source. They rounded the corner and Naruto started making his way to Ichiraku Ramen, but he was halted by Mei's firm hand on his shoulder. You need to eat something other than ramen. There is nothing wrong with how much you eat, however I am not going to sit here and eat ramen for another week. Come on, she finished spinning the boy around in the other direction. Soon enough they were upon the BBQ restaurant frequently visited by Team Asuma, so naturally he wasn't surprised when he saw their team there along with Yugi Kurenai. However, what Naruto didn't expect was to catch sight of Guy's team. The sight of Neji made him scowl. Not for the fact that they were to be pitted against each other in the exams, but for the fact that the guy was an asshole. Who the hell hospitalizes their own cousin, even after he knew she was beat? When Naruto and Mei were getting seated, as Naruto walked by Neji, he kicked his chair quite hard, making it slide a good foot. Usually ninjas have an expert sense of balance and it wouldn't have been a problem except for the fact that Neji was busy eating as if he was at some high-end ceremony. So the meat he had between his chopsticks fell flat to the floor. He appeared quite angry the moment it happened until he realized whom did it. He said just loud enough for Naruto to hear, "You should really respect your betters dead last." Their interaction had gained the attention of most in the restaurant, and they waited patiently for Naruto's comeback, if he had won. Naruto held back a scowl at Neji using the insult that was used by most of his classmates. He wondered if the fact that he had the lowest scores, and was the dead last in the academy would plague him for the remainder of his shinobi career. Doing his best to not show that the comment bothered him, he shot back, "Whatever you say, girly locks." Naruto had to admit he felt rather lame with that insult. However, it isn't about how the insult sounds, it is about the reaction you get out of the person. Neji bristled in his seat and self-consciously adjusted his hair a bit. He tried to look amused at the insult, despite the glare in his eyes. "I see. I guess failures flock together. I can see why Hinata is taken with you," he said calmly in a level-speaking voice. It didn't stop the sad voice from reaching all corners of the room since it was dead silent, everyone curious about the encounter between the Hyuga prodigy and the village scapegoat. Mei put a hand on Naruto's shoulder on that comment, hoping that Naruto wouldn't do something stupid. Yet Naruto wasn't called the most unpredictable ninja for nothing. Naruto shrugged out of Mei's grasp in an instant and stormed up to Neji over his comment about Hinata. It was fine if you were going to harass him, but it angered him when anyone would drag in any of his friends between one of their arguments. Naruto got into the boy's face, who had since stood up and glared down at Naruto. "I'll remember that when I got my foot on your face, and pulling that stick out of you in the final Hyuga," Naruto said with a snarl at the older boy before him. Neji gave a fake smile, but in an instant Naruto was sent tumbling back by a quick gentle fist palm thrust to his chest that left Naruto in a world of pain and with blood coming out of his mouth. Everyone knew that they would have stopped the encounter if they knew one of them would have resorted to violence. That, and no one expected it to be Neji who lost his cool in the argument. Guy looked gobsmacked at the fact that his student would do something so unyouthful. Although before he could make a comment about it, Neji excused himself, stating, "I have to train for the more impressive fighters in the upcoming exam." Mei was kneeling down beside Naruto, and promptly gathered the attention of all the people in the room since Neji had left. Her hand rested on Naruto's chest and began to grow green, and she said calmly, "You should be more in check of your emotions." Naruto, laying down, had tears in his eyes from the severe burning pain in his chest. Yeah, he said through gritted teeth. "I will get him back though," he said in a gasp. Mei shook her head. "I won't always be here to help you. You know that, right?" Her statement was a rhetorical question. She knew that he knew she wouldn't always be around. She could only hope he wouldn't do anything stupid like that again. Naruto gave a weak nod as he laid there. Mei did her best to brighten the boy's spirits by asking him a simple question, "So what do you want to eat?" Naruto produced a strained laugh at the, "What do you want to eat?" but shook his head as he picked himself up on weak legs. "I'm not hungry anymore," he said slowly as he started making his way out of the restaurant, leaving shinobi of all ages looking at his retreating form. Naruto had a huge grin as he made his way down the street to the clothing store. Ever since Naruto had started applying shadow clones to his training, every day, no every hour, he would grow in leaps and bounds. He had since perfected drawing out water from the air around him. It put a strain on his body, but he was sure that would lift as he used it more often. However, that wasn't why he was grinning, because he learned far more than that. The water-cutting sword he hadn't been able to really get a hang of last week was now perfected within an hour of training at the beginning of the week. Since then he had been training personally with Mei off to the side on his body and how to utilize the sword to the best of his ability. The style was interesting. It was based on being extremely fast over bodies of water and dealing quick and overwhelming kenjutsu blows with the ever shape-changing blade. Naruto just wished he could figure out a way to take the style to the next level. So in the meantime, while trying to figure out a way about making the style better, he had begun mastering random jutsus designated by Mei as he personally worked on his body. The first, and definitely most memorable of jutsus that he was taught was the water prison. Mei explained to Naruto how the prison was often used just to stop the enemy's movements, and then finishing them off when they had nowhere to run. Much to her displeasure, she described how the 7 shinobi swordsmen were well known for using the ability to disable half of a team and forcing them to watch as they killed off the other half before them. Naruto knew he could only be thankful that they had that reputation and tendencies. If Zabuza had chosen to take care of Kakashi the moment he caught him in the water prison, him and his entire team would be dead by now. There was one thing that made him smile when he thought about this training though. Zabuza could have killed Kakashi, and the battle was over before it even began. Added to the fact that Haku could have stepped in at any time. The concept that those water users were not only stronger than Kakashi, but stronger than his entire team combined regardless of their injuries. Well, his entire team minus Kyuubi. The fox was just an unfair advantage in any circumstance. Regardless, the thought made him grin that he was learning some of the water jutsus that had been used by shinobi better than his sensei. The next jutsu he came to learn over the week was very entertaining to watch when coupled with the fact he could do water jutsu, without a source, which of course was just pulling the molecules out of the air. The water wall, a standard water jutsu that became legendary in the hands of Konoha's Nidaime Hokage. The jutsu would create a spinning vortex of water around the user that operated like a shield. Due to its spinning properties, it was nearly impenetrable by most jutsus. The only ones that could really stop the technique were solid earth techniques. Even the counter element, lightning, was rendered useless in the hands of the late Hokage. The water's current would merely provide a channel for the lightning to flow on before it would fizzle out like some weak firecracker. Naruto had also begun trying to create one jutsu that he felt could assist him in making this kenjutsu style he was learning even better. The problem was he was trying to learn it with one-handed hand seals, because if he couldn't do it with one-handed hand seals or without the use of seals, the technique was completely useless to him. Naruto broke himself from his train of thought as he appeared in front of the shinobi clothing store. Much to his displeasure, he found both Sakura and Ino in one corner of the store, and he did his best not to be noticed. Mei, despite the clothing she wore, seemed to have a ton of money. She gave Naruto an absurd amount of cash to buy his clothing from the store, and she just said, "Get something nice," and blew. Naruto could barely contain his grin. He usually never had money to buy clothes that he wanted, so he stuck to the orange jumpsuit. However, he did like blue, it matched his eyes quite well. Of course, Naruto wasn't some fashion hound, but he did have a sense of what looked good and what didn't. It all came down to the money to buy it. Naruto was already in quite impressive shape before his training with Mei. He just never showed off his figure due to the fact that he always wore baggy jumpsuits. The training Mei had him doing only further improved how toned his muscles were. The standard training of a civilian could take months to obtain a desired level of fitness, where with a shinobi it could be done in mere weeks with the assistance of chakra. One of the reasons Naruto couldn't help but be impressed with Lee, whom didn't have that privilege and yet still kept in the best shape possible. Now Naruto was by no means bursting at the seams with his muscles, but he did have muscles that were hard as a rock, that were hidden by his jumpsuit. Yet with the money in hand, he had the intent of buying something that showed off how hard he worked, and show everyone that he worked extremely hard at becoming a ninja contrary to popular belief. Naruto walked over to the area of the store dedicated to pants and shorts among other things. He was doing good staying out of Ino and Sakura's line of sight as well. Naruto pulled some very dark blue overalls off the rack that he knew would loosely cling to his body, and the lower half would actually be quite loose on him. Naruto was a fan of overalls since he was a kid, mainly because before you can buy shinobi clothing you have to be in your final years of the academy. So in the meantime Naruto would always wear these green overalls over a black shirt with his green goggles and run around causing mass chaos. Naruto did have a feeling though he would look rather nerdy wearing overalls, so he held on to them but did his best to try and find something else he could use to spice up the outfit. He walked past a series of standard shinobi pants, something he didn't really want. He had been standing out his entire life, no point trying to conform now. Especially when it appeared that no one really gave a damn about him, particularly his sensei, Kakashi. That thought naturally made him scowl, and brush his whiz past the typical Chunin, Junin, and Ambu pants that reminded him all too much of Kakashi's typical attire. Naruto came across a rack with an assortment of different sashes, and for a moment he for some reason became mesmerized and began thinking over his potential outfit in his head. There were numerous sashes just hanging there, typically worn by sword specialists, but on rare occasions by shinobi. They were mostly all in bright colors such as red, orange, and yellow, likely trying to stay true to Konoha, showing its will of fire. However, there were a few others, such as a simple black sash. There was one that did stand out from all of the rest, and he knew with May telling him to get something blue, she would love this. The sash was long, going down to the ankles. It only covered one side of his legs, so it certainly would be an interesting contrast to see one leg covered to the ankle, and another showing the standard overall shorts that went a bit past his knees. When Naruto picked up the blue sash, he realized that it had an intricate black design that reminded him of something along the lines of sea dragons, or sharks diving and re-emerging on the water's surface. He quickly took it off the rack and draped it over his arm with a grin. He now realized that with his current clothing, having any form of tool pouch would be rather odd, so he didn't even bother looking for them. It wasn't like the style he was working on with May was really reliant on ninja tools anyways. If something came up that changed that, well, he could cross that path when he came to it. Naruto walked to the other side of the room where there were several assortments of armors on the wall. It ranged from chain mail, to small bucklers, to full-on gauntlets. Naruto, when he saw the gauntlets, could only grin. He had been doing things big his entire life, no point stopping now. Go big or go home, right? He thought to himself with an amused smile. He grabbed a gauntlet off the wall that would cover his entire left arm. The thing appeared to be flexible, but he still needed to try it on. The one thing he was happy about was the prospect of it being another way to block incoming attacks. He wielded his sword in his right hand, and most battles between two skilled opponents with a sword often revolved around a series of parries before a final blow. However, if he could just snatch an opponent's blade out of the air mid-swing, and then cut him with Naruto's own water sword. While slightly dangerous, it was far more useful than anything else he could spot in the store. Naruto didn't notice as he made his way to the changing room, but he had attracted the attention of both Ino and Sakura, who moved over to stand right outside the changing room waiting for him. Ino moved with Sakura and sat down in the chairs just outside the changing room. "Why are we waiting here for Naruto?" Sakura asked dryly as her friend forced her to sit down and wait for the boy. It wasn't that Sakura hated Naruto, it was just he was so annoying with how much he asked her out. Why wouldn't he ever understand no means no? Sakura had conveniently ignored the fact that Sasuke had told her no countless times as well, because frankly, what did that have to do with anything really? Ino sighed, "Forehead, where have you been? How can you not be the slightest bit interested in Naruto right now?" Ino said in exasperation, surprising Sakura sitting next to her. "Didn't you hear about his encounter with Neji? Nearly everyone from our class was there. Where have you been?" Naruto and Neji both got at each other's throats. I mean, who would have thought that Naruto of all people would have made it to the finals? Ino laughed a bit to herself. "And we called him the dead last," she said with a weak smile on her face. Sakura pursed her lips at this information. She actually did hear about the encounter Naruto had with Neji, but really paid it no mind because she was all hung up on when Sasuke would be returning to the village. That thought put a sour taste in her mouth that she had so blatantly ignored one of her teammates in favor of another when they were both in the finals. What if Naruto needed her help or something? However, this only brought up more questions, like why wasn't Kakashi-sensei training Naruto as well as Sasuke out of the village? She didn't get her questions answered as Naruto walked out of the changing room. His outfit, in her opinion, was completely odd and stood out, but at the same time looked quite good. She would never admit it out loud, but Naruto looked good in blue. It matched his eyes. Ino, however, was much more vocal in her opinion of his clothing. Between the whistling and playful catcalls she sent his way, which promptly caused Naruto to spin around red in the face. "I love it, Naruto, you look great," she said as she moved closer to the boy. "However, the overalls, really," she said as she shook her head. Naruto currently had his overalls up, with the straps over his shoulders. However, by Ino's look, he knew she felt that in her eyes it just didn't work and was not afraid to tell him. Before Naruto could react, he was in Ino's grasp, and she was taking his arms out of the straps. She then proceeded to make light incisions into the sides of the overalls, and folded them over his waist and let the straps just hang there loosely, barely covering the lower half of the overalls or part of the sash. Ino, what are you doing? I haven't even bought these yet, he said quickly, gritting his teeth. Oh hush, I'm making you look good, she said as she waved her hand playfully as she continued to go to work on his clothing. Sakura, whom was just standing off on the sides this entire time thinking of all of the bad things she could say about Ino to Sasuke, like how she was all over Naruto in a clothing store, suddenly stopped her train of thought. When Ino had pulled down the overalls and folded them on his waist, they both never expected for it to reveal tight six-pack abs. It was common knowledge that you needed next to no body fat to be able to show off abs like that. This was the big mystery. How did this idiot, she thought in wonder, how does he have such low body fat with how much he eats? She got a red tint to her cheeks as she continued to look at Naruto and promptly looked away. Ino, on the other hand, being far more confident and less shy than Sakura, tapped her hand against Naruto's abs a couple times before saying, "Impressive. Someone has been working out, Naruto," she said with a wink which made the said blonde blush before she reached up to the boy's blue headband. She noticed as soon as she began to untie it that he double-wrapped the headband, hiding half of his length. The action of her untying his headband nearly made Naruto push the girl off of him. That was one of the things he didn't want anyone to put their hands on. While he didn't like the news he heard about Iruka all those months ago, it was still one of the best gifts he had ever gained. He wasn't going to have some random person it up. Although, at present time he was too surprised with the fact that he was this close to one, if not the most popular girl in his graduating class, as she fawned over him and touched his body. His teenage body was having a bit of trouble adjusting to the situation. Ino quickly adjusted Naruto's headband in a way she felt would look best on him, and much to Naruto's surprise she adjusted it exactly to the way Zabuza had his headband on. Over the head, with remaining length of the headband going down the side of his face. Naruto took a step back from Ino and examined himself momentarily in the mirror. He had to admit, her look was 1,000 times better than what he had worn before, but still he felt the need to throw out some form of a false time constraint. He felt that if he didn't soon, he would be stuck her modeling clothes for Ino all day. "Hey Ino, thanks for the help, but I really need to get going. You know, things to do, people to see, all of that stuff," he said quickly as he backed his way out of the changing room. He gave a quick wave to Sakura, but nothing more than that as he briskly made his way to the counter. He dropped a bit more than the desired amount of money on the counter, not bothering to wait for his change, and quickly made his way outside. Unfortunately for him, it appeared that both Sakura and Ino were in the mood to follow him, like they had nothing better to do. On any other day, he would have loved the attention he was getting from the two girls, but not when he was busy training for the finals. Naruto rounded a corner, stopped as his gaze narrowed. In front of the shinobi weapon shop stood both Neji and Tenten. Neji was facing the opposite direction, with Tenten facing Naruto, albeit from a significant distance. Naruto held back a growl at the sight of the boy. Normally he wouldn't attack someone from behind, especially when intending to start a fight. However, the fucking white-eyed asshole had attacked him last time they met, and this time his was going down. Naruto marched up at a rather quick pace, preparing to hit the boy quite hard in the back of his head with his gauntlet-encased fist. He was going to take much pride in knocking that all-seeing, girly-looking prick to the ground. Naruto rushed up in the final steps, getting ready to attack the supposed Hyuga prodigy, but this action was noticed by Tenten, whom rushed in front of Naruto and nearly hugged him at the chest, doing her best to hold back the impressively strong boy. "Naruto," she said quickly as she tried her best to push him back several feet, which was nearly impossible until both Sakura and Ino, whom were following him, and stepped in and assisted the girl. There was no need for some brawl between the two to happen in the middle of the streets. Naruto, shocked at the fact that three people were restraining him, couldn't help but voice his opinion when Neji turned around. "Let me at that girly bastard. I'll turn his white eyes black and blue," he said as he shook against his human restraints. Tenten turned to her teammate. "Neji, get out of here, there is no need for another fight. Yet by the time she had said that, she realized what her teammate intended to do. The Hyuga genius had since activated his family bloodline, and as Tenten stepped off from trying to restrain the blonde and moving to restraining her black-haired teammate, it was too late. The black-haired genius was too quick. He once again had slid in and given Naruto a vicious palm thrust to the chest, while Naruto was being restrained by two girls whom thought they were helping the boy. The girls instantly let go of the boy on reflex when they saw the attack coming, hoping that Naruto would get out of the way. Yet Naruto could only slump to the floor and once again, luckily this time not coughing up blood. Through blurry vision he watched as the Hyuga prodigy smirked and gave him a condescending stare and saying, "Give up, Uzumaki, you are fated to lose against me always. It would only be foolish for you to intend to fight me at the finals," he said calmly before walking off. Tenten had rushed over to Naruto, nearly shouting in his ears a string of apologies with slightly teary eyes. She didn't know Naruto that well, but the fact of the matter was that her actions were the ones that caused him to get hurt. That fact alone hurt her own pride. With her role model being Tsunade, one of the legendary Sannin, the greatest healer in the world. Her actions causing someone to get hurt, and having no way to help the boy afterwards. Well, it was a significant blow to her pride. She had intended to stop a fight, and thought that her teammate would have taken the high road. She knew that Neji could get violent, but the boy was never even that violent with Lee. She had no idea why this boy got on her teammate's bad side so easily. Neji wasn't one to just get angry and attack someone over a simple tournament. There had to be something more to this rivalry that was starting to grow between the two, something more than just the upcoming finals. Naruto grit his teeth as he sat up. He wasn't in near as much pain at the first time. Perhaps it was like he was used to the familiar burning in his chest. Still, it didn't stop a scowl from spreading to his face as he stood on shaky legs. He looked down the long street as the Hyuga prodigy turned the corner, and his first thought was to chase after him. However, he took a deep breath and relaxed himself. He knew he had things to take care of, but he did know there would be one place he would be visiting later. The library. Time skip. 7 days till the finals. Naruto gave a heavy sigh as he walked down the street beside Mei. He was close to mastering the technique he had been working on. He had technically already accomplished his intended goal with the technique. He just wanted to try and be able to utilize the technique without hand seals to make the skill all the more powerful. The technique wasn't even hard really, it was merely a variation on another technique. However, if he could do it without hand seals, it could prove to be one of the more deadly abilities out there, and in his arsenal. That aside, he did have fun learning several techniques over the course of the week. This week, unlike last week, it was mostly offensive techniques, much to Naruto's pleasure. The first jutsu was one he knew very well. Hell, how could he ever forget the first really destructive jutsu he had seen? The water dragon. When Mei had told him that he would be learning that, at first he wanted to laugh, until he realized that she was serious. She didn't even teach him the technique that required 40 seals. She told him that shinobi from the hidden mist village once upon a time stole a scroll from an enemy village in hopes to learn several techniques. Among these techniques were genjutsu such as the Bringer of Darkness technique, but more importantly, the person they stole it from created a way to utilize the water dragon jutsu with a single hand seal. Truly an amazing feat. Unfortunately for her and the shinobi that stole the technique, the single hand seal was only viable for a water dragon if you had enough chakra to just override the need to use all of the seals to do the different chakra moldings required for the technique. Now there was always a saying among shinobi and civilians alike that goes something along the lines of, you need to learn to crawl before you can walk, you need to learn to walk before you can run, essentially saying that there was an order in the way things get done. Naruto found out this week that Mei did not believe in that order, at least when it came to training. Naruto felt that if she was an instructor teaching students how to swim, she would take them into the center of a lake, and push them off and telling them to swim to shore. Dangerous, but usually quite effective. So when Mei had come to him and told him that if he didn't get this technique right, he would blow off his arms, well, he chose to stick to it but be extra careful, which meant using clones as sacrificial lambs as he began to learn the technique. Later on, however, after mastering the technique and realizing none of his clones actually had their arms explode, Mei had in fact told him that she had lied. Naruto felt like an idiot. The next technique he learned over the course of the week was extremely useful, and in reality Naruto thought it was the perfect offensive water jutsu. The Water Fang Bullet. The deadly technique was simple yet effective. You could conjure yourself up tiny little whirlpools in the water that could rise up, still having the spinning motion on the water. The current that is applied to the rising water gives it the potential to maim the opponent quite effectively. The fact that you can make them sprout up virtually anywhere there is water only adds to the dangers of the technique. The last technique that Naruto was able to perfect this week was quite simple, much to contrary belief. The problem with the jutsu was the required amounts of chakra that were needed to perform it. Added to the fact that Naruto had been learning to perform this jutsu without an initial water source, well, the technique would be nearly impossible. Mei had told him that only 2 people in history, at least to her knowledge, had been able to perform such a feat without a water source. The technique was commonly used to create a watery battlefield, fueling the power of any water user out there. Yet for Naruto this technique was mainly a way to quickly perform the ability to draw water from the air. Naruto didn't personally feel the technique was that useful for him, but he wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth on the subject. As Naruto walked down the street with Mei in step with him, he could barely contain his smile. The thought that he had come so far in such little time. All he needed was the experience, and he knew that he would become quite the shinobi. This was something Mei also took time to acknowledge, and she even told him that she would try and figure out a way for Naruto to gain some experience before the exams. Yet his happy and cheerful mood instantly turned cold as he rounded the corner on a restaurant. He then remembered exactly why he had been training, and why he had gone to the library for information. That white-eyed pretty boy was sitting in the outside area of the BBQ restaurant where they initially had their first encounter. Naruto grit his teeth at the thought of all of the encounters he had with the boy over the past month. Mei had caught eye of Naruto's sudden stop and attempted to reach out a hand to keep him calm, but it was far too late for that. Naruto had begun his approach. Meantime at the table with Neji. The table was littered with several Konoha shinobi that had made it to the preliminary rounds of the exams. Kurenai's team was absent from the table, although she was present. Sure, she was not the greatest fan of the Hyuga male sitting at the table, but she wasn't going to let that boy get in the way of her spending time with her boyfriend, Asuma. Asuma had all of his genin here, and he had for the majority of the month had a 4th member of the team that was Sakura. Despite how much both Ino and Sakura fought each other, they still remained friends, even if distant. This only became even more evident after their battle at the preliminaries for the exam. Yet he had to admit, as bratty as the two could get, they were both rather amusing and fun company to have around. Especially with the fact that until just recently, both Shikamaru and Choji were wrapped up with their families most of the time training. Shikamaru sat at the table leaning his head back over his chair. He was tired, and that much was obvious to everyone around the table. When his dad had found out that he had made it to the Chunin exams, despite the lazy attitude that they both shared, they had both decided to dive right into training for the finals. However, the day-to-day training wasn't so bad, at least until this week where it had begun to take a toll on his chakra coils. It was one of the main reasons as to why he had free time right now to go out with his friends. He wasn't supposed to be training. From now on, he would just work on strategy with his dad at night before bed, and a bit more in the mornings before he went in to get his assignments for the day. Sakura and Ino spent their time at the table chatting amongst themselves. They both were throwing ideas back and forth about what exactly Sasuke was learning from Kakashi during this 1-month period. However, as they began to talk more and more, not only just now, but over the last month about what Sasuke could be learning. Naruto came into conversation. Now it was not typical in the slightest for Naruto to be the topic of conversation for the girls.